Hey educators, have you ever wondered how to use learning outcomes in your practice? Don't worry, I have your back. Today we're going to talk briefly about learning outcomes in general. So I will make a very long video later on as a tutorial on each of the learning outcomes. But so far, let's use the EYLF or Early Years Learning Framework version 2.0. To have a good understanding of what learning outcomes are. So learning outcomes, you might mistake them for learning goals for each of the experiences, yet they are not what you think. Learning outcomes are very broad, as EYLF states, and if you look at the SQL resources, it does talk a lot about how learning outcomes should not be inspiring ticking boxes exercise. For example, you made a Play-Doh and then you decide that you want to link it to the outcome. And most of my students, educators, pre-service teachers, pre-service educators, they might think, oh, I'm going to link it to outcome 3. Children have a strong sense of well-being. But the sense of well-being for a baby is very different from a sense of well-being for a 5-year-old child. Also, sense of well-being is a broad concept. So which particular sub-outcome or component of learning are you linking it to? In other words, to be able to find connections to the learning outcome as a very far long-term goal, you need to have a very, very good grasp of outcomes as a sense of direction. Let's revisit this idea. Learning outcomes give us focus and direction. Without learning outcomes, we would be not very clear on what kind of things to plan. We would be probably inspired by primary school curriculum, or in Australia it's AC, Australian curriculum, that is published by ACARA. Yet children who are at school, they have different set of skills. So we want to see something that is more meaningful and science-based, evidence-based, and related to early childhood, the most important years in child's life from 0 to 5. So learning outcomes, consider them as broad, long-term goals that you then turn into short-term goals that you then can add to your learning experiences. Each of these sub-outcomes or mini-goals, they contribute to child developing sense of identity. That's outcome number 1. They contribute to child connection and their contribution to the world. If you took children outside for an excursion to the nature reserve, you are working towards a long-term goal of children are connected and contribute to the world. If community member came to visit your center with an educational visit, you are connecting it to outcome 2 as well. So as a broad long-term goal for all children can be unpacked into smaller goals in particular. So individual experiences are like little stepping stones towards this big goal, like your polar star, like your North Star that you have in mind for each child. And of course, for each child, learning will be different. This pathway to learning will also differ. Some children may need more time understanding, unpacking who they are. Some children require more time to develop sense of belonging somewhere. Some children you can call effective communicators, but you need to have a very good understanding of what effective communicator is at the age of 8 months, yeah? And what is effective communicator is at the age of 5 when they're ready to start. Also, we want to still continue using strengths-based approach. So if we, let's say, have a child who is still non-verbal at the age of 4, due to neurodiversity, Would you be able to work towards the same outcome? Yes, but the stepping stones and the goals would be different. It's not possible to tick the box for a child who is neurodiverse. It's not possible to tick the box, child is effective communicator in a home language, if you don't know their proficiency in home language. So it's a lot of work behind each outcome, and it's a lot of unpacking. So if you are a student who is studying towards your first certificate 3 or your first qualification in early childhood education in care, or if you are family daycare educator and you have, let's say, 7 children or 4 children you are looking after, think about each of them as a very unique child and start unpacking. Usually I use mind maps, so you can use the whiteboard and texter. Just look at the outcome 1, let's say children have a strong sense of identity, and write down, having this child in mind, what your understanding of identity. Look at the components of learning and consider how do you understand each of them. For example, do you already do some of the things that are listed as experience examples in EYLF, as you know, and that's what I'm teaching, that's one of my main videos, is the table for each outcome. So I'm going to open outcome 1, not 4. 4 is amazing outcome. Let's open outcome 1. Children feel safe, secure, and supported. Do you see the table here? So the table is unpacking outcome 1. In particular, evidence examples, that are on the left side here, on the left side. So you need, as an early childhood educator, as an early childhood student, as an early childhood teacher, work with this document. And by work, I mean take pen, pencil, texter, whatever you work with, voice recordings, and read what you see. All right, so children feel safe, secure, and supported. This is outcome 1, and it is component of learning number 1, or 1.1. Evidence examples, as I was saying, on the left. Children, when they build secure attachments with one and then other familiar educators. Is it evident in your practice? Do you have a child who built a connection with you and you can call it secure attachment? Bowlby theory is required here. You need to know what attachment is. So you see, it's a lot behind the scene in these learning outcomes. Next example. Participate in familiar routines and rituals to make smooth transitions. Children might participate in familiar routines and rituals. Are the transitions smooth, or can you work towards that? So you see how it is not a ticking box exercise. So for example, you've done one transition that went well, but transitions to sleep for this particular child are not exactly successful. So you are working on the stepping stone for this child, and some children quite difficult to settle. So that's why you will take more of the experiences that help to create this ritual for this child and for this room. Right? So some rooms are harder to settle. For example, I used to work in rooms as a relief teacher where they had no permanent kindergarten teacher, only educators who would come and go. And that was very unsettling. The room was unsettled. Children were misbehaving, a lot of challenging behaviors, simply not following the directions. Even excursions and visits from other companies were difficult because you didn't have control of the room. Next, seek and connect with adults they trust to share their accomplishment and communicate their needs for comfort and assistance. Can you, let's say, see if child is asking you to hug them when they fell off the bike, as the evidence of working towards this component of learning. Absolutely. If child initiates and joins in play, does it mean that they feel safe, secure, and supported? Yes, but is it always happening? And do they use home languages? For a toddler, it would be one way to use home languages. For other preschooler, it would be more proficient. Yet, remember that sometimes children in social situations are not using their home language. I've seen it many times. I had a child, actually multiple children, in my group who could definitely could speak another language because I could communicate with them. And also I could see that they communicate with their father, for example, and mother in Samoan. But when I asked them directly or encouraged them to show us how to count to 10, they would just go like this. So it's a challenging environment. So it's hard sometimes for children to be different. And of course, how would you observe that children use home languages? You need to have a grasp of it, right? So you need an expert who will help you. And you need partnerships with families and community. If child describes things that make them unique, usually that's an easy one to observe. Another thing about learning outcomes and components of learning is that they are sometimes easy to observe. They are evident. Yes, so that's why these are called examples, evidence examples. If child tells stories about their family, for example, they might say, I live with mommy, I don't know, let's say mommy, Jack, and Sadie. You need to find out who Sadie is, who is Jack. Is it her older brother? Is it mom's partner? That's what happened to me when I remember I started in the new room and I had no knowledge of children. So usually January is time to familiarize yourself with all these new children. So yeah, these are components of learning. We look at outcomes as not something to tick, but as something that you can call as a big picture. So never use them for ticking box, even if your TAFE or RTO requires you to add outcome. Make a meaningful connection and see the distance travel as one of my favorite professional development specialists, Catherine Hayden, called it many times, the distance traveled by this particular child, right? So if you talk about sense of identity, what happened over few experiences with the identity of this child? Do they feel more secure, more supported? Do they feel that they belong to your family daycare center or preschool? I hope you now have a better understanding of learning outcomes. Come up with your metaphor and your examples. Ask questions in the comments below, and I'm happy to discuss it. I am planning to do a workshop that will help you to unpack this in more depth. And also I'm offering personal coaching towards writing better observations. So you check my payhip and you can contact me as well for any struggles that you have and we can discuss.